And there we go. Hello, hello, hello. It's me again. You know me. I have up here what do I have? A 14 by 18 inch canvas. That's kind of the size. I had some of these. It's a good size, it seems, to do little videos with. And I have, let's see, a little bit of liquid white. You always want to see, kind of like that. You can see how looks like I had a nice nut and I got taken into the booking station and I'm not going to have a very good morning. So it looks like I've been fingerprinted there, so that's kind of what you want all over. I always think if you could put less where you know your mountain's going to go, you're in better shape there though. You definitely want enough in the sky to make it a little easier to paint. So let's grab a brush here. I'm going to grab a 1-inch brush, one of mine. And I've got two colors, white and Prussian blue. Actually, I've changed my mind. I'm going to grab, no, I have one here. What did I do with it? There it is. A fan brush. Real quick. Fan brush, one of mine. And I'm going to get me just the tiniest amount of Prussian blue. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to, with that Prussian blue, I'm just going to make some clouds. I'm not even going to put white. You know, make little noises, whatever you want to do. It's your painting. Something there. Oh heck, I'll let one kind. You know me, I like to have a little bit in the corner. Something like that. Kind of rolling back up on that corner as I'm painting. Okay, let's blend just a little bit. We'll take our 1-inch brush here and just blend that a little bit and see what I think. So all I'm painting with now is blue and the liquid white, right? It's on the canvas. That's the only thing I'm using so far. It's a little bit of blue, a little bit of liquid white that's on the canvas. And I'm letting that liquid white, I want this to be a super cold painting. And one way to do that is put mostly white in your sky, you know. But I'm going to use a little bit of this color. I want a little bit more blue than that. I'm going to use a little bit of the color just to kind of move around and, you know, just kind of make some stuff happen. Oh, that's some blue, huh? Right, definitely blue there, right? Something over there. But I'm not going to put anything else. It's just blue. We're going to have two colors today, blue and white. I might want, here, let's just seal up a little more here. Don't want to get crazy. You know, something there for all I know. You know, whatever. Blend it out. Blend out what you don't like. You can turn the sky blue, so it really wouldn't matter. This is a cold painting. Prussian blue is a cold color. You know, that's something like that. I'm not real happy with that right there, so I'll just kind of knock that down a little bit. Knock it in there. I don't like that shape I put up there. There we go. See how we got a nice little sky with some movement, but we're not using anything but the blue. We're taking advantage of the liquid white now. I mean, I complain about using the liquid white because it's so messy, but you know, if you're going to use it, make it work. No free rides here, people. Let's go. Let's get to work. And let's just bring a little bit of that white down. Something like that. I mean, you can have more if you want. That's probably plenty. If anything, for me, I would probably just strengthen those corners a little bit more. Grab me a little more. You know, make them really cold. Don't bring too much over there. I didn't like how I did that. You know, and probably just kind of leave it. I'm not going to blend it. If I do, it'll just be just very little. Just a little bit. Makes the painting a little colder, makes it a little darker in those corners, hopefully to draw our eye in. You know, if you wanted to do another color, you could use a little black. The black and the Prussian blue together make even a colder color to me. You know, and I'm getting off that pressure just a little bit. Yeah, I want to kind of connect this little guy in here a little bit. I can tinker with these clouds all day, and I said don't do much, you know. Something there, maybe. Okay. We could always grab a blender brush if we wanted to, but I'm just going to barely just kind of just giving them a little bit here, a little bit of action. A little more conversation, you know, a little more action, please. There you go. Elvis is alive. All right, nice little blue sky. One color. So you got your liquid white, nothing else, and Prussian blue. Very cold painting. That's what we want. That's what I want. You don't have to want that, right? You don't have to want the same thing I want. Guess what we're going to do? Just a kind of a simple mount. This is going to be a quicker one. At least until I get to... I may throw birch trees in. I don't want to surprise... I wanted it to be a surprise, actually. But I just ruined it. Maybe a couple birch trees. Somewhere here, there's going to be a big old mountain that lives here. We know that. You could probably figure that out right there. I see it. Put that knife down and let it go. You know, when you ever want little juts and things, just kind of move that paint around. And I'm going to show you, make sure I show you a little trick. Remind me to show you guys a little trick on this mountain here. Oh, we'll probably want another little guy right there, right? I bet you. Just kind of put that up there. The only thing I'm really worried about is keeping a little bit of a clean edge. You know, it never needs to be super clean, but, you know, a little bit. And I do advise, if you're a beginner, get the little bit nicer swoops in the mountain. Easier to get the snow on than if I put a cliff here and, you know, had this one here and then did something different over here. So as you're a beginner, don't try to make the biggest mountain you can make, you know. Do that when you get a little more experience. You gotta have some things when you get a little more experience to do, so go ahead and just hold off on some of those little things. Yeah, coming down like that. And then back over here, maybe there's another little peak. Well, that's a pretty big peak, but it just kind of runs into that one. Like I said, pretty much a simple, standard mountain shape. Nothing major. I really just like the coldness of this one. This is a simple little landscape that I did one time, and I've taught a couple times. People seem to like it because I think it lends itself well to being a good one for folks to try. Let's grab this. I'm going to grab a different brush because I really like this softness. This one's a little more stiff. I need to clean it. I'm just going to smooth this out just a little bit, and then I'm going to show you another little trick. I'm not really that worried about doing it 100% right now, but I want to get a little bit more of that down in here. I don't want to go too low with it. I'm trying to stay a little higher than that even, but let that be a little valley. Ooh, we can put a little glacier, snow in there. Could be right out of Alaska. Very cold. And just kind of do it like this. You ever seen Bill Alexander do his mountain? He's going, he doesn't stretch all this down. He puts it right over that thick paint. I don't know how. Bill's kind of a wild and goofy guy. Talented as he could be. So there we go. Something like that. Kind of leave her about there. Now I'm going to do the old paper towel trick. Paper towel trick. Take a paper towel. Fold it, fold it, fold it, fold it. Try to get you more than 7 times, you know. I usually leave it about there, actually. Get a little closer to the canvas so I can see. I just want to dry this. And I'm going to continue with that kind of, you know, drying it, pulling it out like I did with the paintbrush, but I'm also going to just try to get as much off as I can. You know, and then I may take a clean paintbrush and smooth out if I don't like how it looks like down here. We'll blend that out a little bit. But yeah, see, I'm just kind of following the same lines I've already got on the mountain, actually. I'm just cleaning the paint off. This would be great, especially for you beginners out there, if you're just starting this method. This will help you get your snow to stick so much better. And if you do, I've got a little piece there that kind of came out. You see that? I might change that with a knife or just leave it and cover it with snow. Who knows? But I'm just going to get up in here, and I'm being careful. I always joke, and it's a terrible joke, that I leave a little Kenny Loggins zone, and nobody ever gets that. There's your danger zone. You don't want to be like right there with the paper towel. You want to be down here, no closer than that, because that way you don't push the blue up into the sky. And it's a good way to get a mess started if you do. Yeah, if I see any wet and I can grab it, I'll just grab it. But look, the color doesn't really change. You know, it's maybe a tad bit lighter, but not really. I'll take this brush here and I'm just gonna right in here, just kind of fuzz out this mountain. Let that sit right there. Oh, look at that nice little fog. Remember what I always say, I always try to push the white, or the liquid white or whatever, into the color that I'm blending into. So I don't want to bring this color down to here, because then I stretch the dark all the way down here. I start here with the liquid white and move that up. And that makes it look more like fog and mist. And that's an opinion, right? Alright, so I'm going to clean my knife off. And I think that's pretty good. I don't think, you know, if you ever got too light, you could always go back and put some dark back in if you needed to, but I think I'm fine. I've got white, so you don't really need to see my palette today. I have white and I have Prussian blue, and I'm just cutting paint, right? Just cutting the paint off. Alright, so let's go here. Remember, I always try to hold with my thumb and my index finger right there, and then just kind of rest the rest of them here. Try not to do this, try not to do this. People try to cheat and be like, I'll catch you if you put your finger on the blade in classes, but then they do that. They've got me on technicality, see? But that's still, I can put a lot of pressure there. It's hard if I hold it with two fingers to put a lot of pressure on that knife. I can't really push that in there. And the only thing that is really touching is the paint. Once you start hearing your knife touch, you need to stop. So just go right outside that edge, put that paint down, and just kind of let your knife just kind of float. Now that little peak over here, you're not going to see much of me doing anything to it, really. Cold mountain there, and it's snowy. Don't try to be one of these. Don't let this one be one of those mountains where you want a lot of breaks in it. You want some breaks, but you want snow, especially at the top of that mountain. Now I'm going to take some white and make me up just a shadow color for the mountain with the Prussian blue. Cold Prussian blue. Now you could use both blues. You could use phthalo and Prussian here for this painting. It'd be fun. You could use 7 colors if you wanted to. You could probably look at this one and say, I don't need to do that. I've done lots like that. So, all kinds of things you could say to yourself, but I'm just talking to myself because I feel weird when I don't, especially when I'm recording a video. If I wasn't recording a video, I'd have music on. So, yeah, I like to paint with music. See that color? Darker than the white, lighter than your dark. You've got to have it lighter than your dark. Don't get too close to your dark color with that, because then it's not going to look right. You know, I'm just going to always give it a little push up, and I'm kind of careful with it to start with. Didn't get enough. A little bigger peak than I thought. There we go. Oh, God. Something like that. Something like that. You know, just a little bit in there. And this is where you can play. You can also come back and say, I want this peak to be a little fancier. Kind of curves back. Try to clean your knife. I didn't clean mine there, but I didn't really need to. You got that, right? Quick little peak of a mountain. Clean my knife off. I always try to keep a paper towel from holding my palette. I'll just usually rub it on my palette knife. Sorry, not on my palette knife. I'll rub my palette knife on my palette. Kind of get that off there. Let's get us a little white. And we'll start here. We'll start right here. And we'll say it just outside that dark edge, right? I want that to wrap. So I'm doing a little run there. I didn't take much paint off at all. See, but how I get that in there? You kind of want those little areas. And you can go slower. You can go a little slower and get that in there. You don't have to, this is not meant to do one run. You don't have to do that. We know people on TV might do that, but honestly, if you do it a little differently, you might like it a little better. You can come up here and just float down through there if you need to. Half an inch at a time, then go back and go back and go back. I'm going to leave just a little gap there for a little bit of a shadow. Now this is something I wouldn't advise doing until you get a little better. You can touch it again. Touch it a little bit again. Right? Always touch it just a little bit. I see a good place for a tree later on. What do you see? yeah, let's just, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this out here. I don't know how much I want right there, but I'll put that much. I just got some new white from Michael's had a sale. It's Winton. This is a little thin for me. You know, every brand has a batch that's a little thicker or a little thinner, and I've got the thinner tube right here, but it's working fine. A little thinner than I prefer. I'm just overlapping. I want to get some of that snow down here too. I don't want it to be left out. And again, I'm not really breaking my rule of not touching it too much, because I'm kind of down here. I'm not up here. I'm never going to go back up there with the big roll of paint. So just kind of stay down there a little bit. Where else? Well, let's do a little shadow, and then we'll look at it. Do a little shadow, and then we'll look at it again. So we know that this one's going to need a shadow, don't we? Whew. Just like that. Just like that. Maybe just a little bit more. I'm barely letting that paint touch. Barely letting the paint touch, and the only thing that's touching is the paint. I don't know how much we want here. I don't know that I want this one to necessarily go all the way through just yet. Let's see. I'll play with it. Like I said, I've painted this one a few times. It's nothing fancy. Yeah, we'll kind of push it through right there, and then I'll look at it again. I might play with that actually. And the one thing I never make up enough of is shadow color. I always run out, and I have to mix it and try to match it somewhat close. You're not really that worried if it gets a little off. If you start mixing a pink or something and you had blue, you probably don't want to use that. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to do something with it, but I am going to get right here real quick and just kind of push up. Pull that back. We do one more little run right there. I'm getting awful low with my mountain. I didn't mean to get that low. I wanted it to stay a little higher. You know what that means? Nothing. It's just higher. I'm going to add a little jut here. Like that. So that mountain's not so straight. Sometimes you get them, it's like here. Put one a little bit over here. I mean, you can do a couple if you wanted to. I'm just going to do that one. Is that enough? Or do I want to, let it come back again? I'm already lower than I wanted to be with my mountain, so why not just let her go? Let it rip here. Nothing to it. Oh, it's cold. It's a cold day. It's a cold day here. Not this cold. But it's cold. Yeah. That's probably good. I see a little, look here, we can't leave this little guy out. A little bit in there. And if you don't like that, which I think it's a little too much, watch this, just run. There we go. And remember, you've always got that little edge if you need to. I don't like this little area right here. So I'm just going to sneak a little bit of snow there. Now that's looking nice. I think. Now, opinions. Maybe just here. I see a little there, not wild about. A lot more shadow in there. Yeah, there. Wanted it to come over just a little bit more. I also see that I could probably come right here and pull this one in a little bit more. Wherever it ends there. And you can get fancy with these and you could spend an hour just doing this little mountain on this smaller canvas here. But sometimes I like to just let a little bit play, play a little bit here. Just kind of wrap it, because not all the light's going to strike so perfectly that it wouldn't have a little touch here or there. And again, that's a preference type thing. And then another thing you can do on any of these mountains, you can always mix a little more blue into your shadow color. Maybe just a little bit more here. I'll show you. Could always have, you could use, I think the dark's just too dark, but I could always make up a little bit more. Let's see what this looks like. If I put a little hint of a darker peak right here. It didn't mix up enough, so I'm having to scrimp here. Whatever you see in your world is what you put, right? Yeah, maybe over here there's a little touch. The little edge is really nice for this kind of thing. Just a few little pockets of extra dark in there. That one almost got a little funky looking. Sometimes if I get funky, I'll turn my knife this way. There. See that? It puts a little line there that you kind of see. Something like that. And you could do that, you know, several places on your mountain. It's not just one or two, but guess what? Eventually, you probably just best to leave it be. You know, because you get a lot of paint up here and start smearing on you and all that good stuff. I think we'll stop there. We're going to stop there. We're going to go to our 1-inch brush here, and I'm going to tickle the paint. Tap, 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 tap. But watch how I'm tapping. I'm not tapping a straight line across this canvas. I'm using the paint, and I'm tapping pretty much with the direction that these mountains are flowing out of my canvas. Imagine this mountain just keeps going. So I'm tapping in that direction. Over here, I'm actually going to take this real quick. Let's just a little footy hill kind of coming around here, maybe. Oh, I'll come back to that. Didn't look right. There, just tap this out. Tapping in the direction the shadow now goes. Nothing to it, guys. Nothing to it. Nothing to it. Sometimes I'll just give it a little pull. If I can sneak in here a little bit like this, I'll even do that sometimes. Give myself a little snowdrift coming over that. I think we all, and myself included, when I do these, I try to get in the same pattern of doing it the exact same way, and you can't do this and you can't do that because, you know, certain people on TV wouldn't do that. Guess what? It's your painting. You want to paint with your fingers, do it, please. Sometimes it looks cool if you do other things. You touch it with your palette knife in a different way, you know, or whatever. I'm not trying to be, and I did not mean to go that low at all. I made a huge mountain. But we'll make it work. I'm going to take my little blender here and just kind of knock off its bottom edge a little better even. I love a blender. Maybe even just tap up in there a little bit. There. Boy, that's a cold painting. Is that not? Could always extend that more or have little foothills coming on down. I'm just going to make my little standard with that mist and fog now. I'm going to make my little standard striky down trees. I'm going to use a different brush for them today though. Yeah. Boy, that's a cool mountain. We could continue that mountain on off this canvas. Be kind of cool looking. You remember this old brush? I don't know what this is, guys, so I can't tell you. So to do what I'm getting ready to do, you could use the fan brush. You could chisel. I'm going to chisel this one. You could chisel a 1-inch brush, do these. Fan brush is what you're probably going to be the most used to. We're going to do those little strike down trees. I wanted to try this one for that. I used it the other day and I liked it. It's a thicker brush. I forget what this is called. It's one I'm trying, so I don't know what it's called. I almost want to say it's some kind of flat, but it's a big flat. I may even paint my evergreen with this. I don't know. I'll probably have a little evergreen, I bet you. And we may paint our tree with it. Who knows? But I used this one on, I'll show you what I mean by chisel. All I'm doing is, like your load a fan brush, you're going to load this one the same way. And you're just putting enough paint, and it takes a lot. This is why I don't recommend painting trees with the 1-inch, especially the 2-inch. It takes, you know, half a tube of paint just to get it nice and chiseled. I like the looks of it, but again, it's that money part. You know, I've used all that paint. Now I have no money or paint left. I keep buying tubes of paint. I'm spending a little bit of time. This is pretty much chiseled. It's not quite completely, but look how much paint's in that brush. So imagine the 2-inch if I did that. Oh, I need a little white in that too. I don't want it to be that dark to start with. I'm going to just put a little white. I want it darker than the mountain, right? But I don't want it as dark as I had it. I forgot what I was doing. Yeah, there we go. There. That white even chiseled it better. I think this color's fine. There, you see it? Now look at it. I don't know if that'll show on the camera. No, let's see if I can see it. See that, how chiseled that is? Pretty cool, pretty cool. Again, don't ever start up here because then you're losing your focus. If you did start here, you can start here and come down like a U shape. Let's do that. That might look good. So just take that brush, same procedure, guys. If I use the fan brush, I'd have the fan brush kind of tipped up like that. And all I'm going to do is kind of knock down on these trees here. Look at that. Same method I would use for the fan, right? Nothing new here. So don't fret if you don't have one of these probably. And then I got to go back. I just want to see how it would do. Sometimes I don't like how the fan does these, so they're just kind of in the background, sitting around. I'm not worried about them being perfect. Some of them can be chunky, some of them can be small. You know, whatever. You can vary your color. You can put more white in it. You can make it darker again if you wanted to. There's no rules. You know that with me. There's never a rule of what it should look like. I'm just going to kind of let some of them be kind of big over here. Some of them get hidden by an evergreen over here. Oh, I like that. I know if I talk about Bill quite a bit, but Bill would kind of use like his 1 inch to do this. And it's kind of the same effect. You get a little fuzzier trees. And with the fan brush, you're going to get more like that because that was, you know, how I started. But as I didn't reload it as often, it kind of gets like that, a little fuzzier. Maybe there's some sharper evergreens in here mixed with, you know, deciduous trees or something. And that's kind of what you'd see in nature a lot of times. Something like that. And then, a couple ways you could do this. I don't want this to get too blue. So don't be up here, but you could smack the bottom off of these, kind of do this. We need a little bit of blue for shadows, for snow. This is also where you can reclaim a little real estate. So you got them this long. They don't have to be that long. We can knock them back. You can knock them in half. You're just going to get a little bit of that blue down in your white, which we need a little bit, but we don't want a ton. And actually, it's almost like if I'd started here and pushed the white up into the blue again, because that's going to make it look like fog and mist. I'm going to take my little blender, though, and do that. Always give it a little... Yeah, just some trees to cut off the mountain. Nothing. This, like I said, this is kind of a standard old scene. Here, I can take the white now. Remember what I said, push that into the blue. So I really don't want to see where those end. Yeah. Something like that. Oh, that's cold. That's really cold. Put a pond in here. Make some ice on it, whatever. I need a little bit of blue down here, but not a ton. Not a ton. There's that one. Okay, what's next? Now we got our little evergreens back there. And again, probably use your fan brush. You'll like that look better. Just for me, I like to play around and try different things. It doesn't mean if you're watching me, you have to do the exact same thing. But bigger mountain than I intended, for sure. But I like it. You know, if you know me, you know I love mountains. I believe I'm going to Fairbanks, Alaska in March. So Karen and I are going to get to experience real winter. I'm hoping it gets down to negative 50. March is probably a little late for that, but it's still going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. You know, hoping for the northern lights, teaching some classes up there in the winter instead of the summer. We're flipping seasons. Let's see. Filbert, you know me, I like my filbert. I'm going to do an evergreen. Just one evergreen maybe right here. Yeah, I think right here. And then if I can get On the original, I left a little more space right here so I could get a couple of nice birch trees. I got a really nice peak there, so I don't know where to put my birch trees. I may go right through there. We'll play with it. We'll figure it out. I wasn't paying attention when I was doing. I always say I can never paint the same, scene again anyway. Because I've got it pulled up on my computer behind me. It's a super simple scene, but I'm not good at following my own directions. I'm going to use straight Prussian blue now, no white in it. And I'm going to come up here and make my little, just a little bit, probably right there. Let's go right here. Make my little line. And figure out about where it's going to stop. Probably right there. Just one of them. Keep it really dark. And again, anytime you see me grab the filbert, feel free to grab the fan brush and use it the same way. Turn it to the side. Use the corner, start your tree, and just touch a little. I need more paint. What's our golden rule? You need paint to paint. There we go. Now I want this to stay super dark, so because I'm going to go through so much of that shadow mountain base, I'm probably going to have a paper towel, wipe that off, and reload the dark paint almost, every inch or so on this tree, just to keep it, because and I'll probably go back over it, honestly. That's what I typically do when I paint them with this. Let's just get the shape on here, lay it out. Remember how if you watched the last couple videos, just focus on your middle. I'm gonna let mine go all the way into the snow. You could leave a little trunk there, and if you wanted to get fancy, get out some brown and make a big old trunk. I don't want to. There. Now just kind of work out from the center with some arms, trying to not make them look exactly the same, but they probably will for me. That one goes on, and just let it stop wherever you want to. You're going to use a little bit of this for some shadow. Look how dark the bottom looks, because I smacked that bottom in and then went back over it. So I'm going to go back over my top because I want this to be quite dark. One little trick, if you're comfortable using it, would be paint a little touch of paint thinner or solvent in your brush, and then you would just thin your paint down slightly. I'd recommend just kind of going back over the tree. Start using paint thinner, it thins your paint, right? It's good at that. And sometimes that gets into a mess. Sometimes. Especially if you're new, don't do that. Just do this. This works much better anyway, without changing the consistency of your paint. Because then if you thin it down, right, you're going to have to go back over it and thin it down again when you do highlights on this tree. Let's just fill up that corner there. Here, that's dark enough. And again, just one trim will make it just a little bit wider at the bottom. Let some little things hang off of it on this side. There, got some paint on the brush. I'll smack it off there. That is one way to do it. Just kind of get some paint on here. Make it the darkest at the bottom, because right, mostly full at the bottom on these big evergreens, unless you've got a skimpier one, which looks good too. Because I do them this way doesn't mean that's the way you paint trees. Some people probably would hate painting trees with filbert. So there we go, big old evergreen hanging out. One more little jet there. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to grab. I only brought two of my brushes back here, and both of them have a little bit of paint. So I always have some Alexanders laying around. These Alexander brushes are so light. I mean, this is let's find the newer one of the one I'm using in mine. They're also short. Look at that, a little bit shorter. Very similar bristles though. This one I don't use these enough. So I'm going to just imagine if I just take a little bit of this and pull it out, it can be a little shadow area. We'll put white over this, of course. However much you need. Grab whatever you need. We're not stingy here. Cold, my goodness, this is a cold painting. Goodness. I'll wipe that one off because I'll use it for some snow too. Kind of scrub it off there. You don't have to hold your paper towel roll. You can tear them off. And then I've got a good bit of white, see that? And I'm just going to take it right here and I'm just going to pull it. Whew. I might reload. And pull it, depending on how bright I want that snow to look, you know. I'm making a little hill for my tree to sit on, right? And I'm a little higher than I am in my original one, but it still looks good. Perspective still looks fun. I don't want to see that harshness there, so I'll just kind of go right against it barely and just kind of knock it down. Now you could have snow like pile up on the tree, especially if you had like a trunk. If you had a trunk here, you could take it and just kind of pile that snow right up on that trunk. I don't need a trunk in mine though, and that's an opinion. You know what we say? Let's do a hill over here too. Take that. Oh boy, there it is. Painting snow may be the easiest thing you can do. See, now I've got a couple different planes in here. Not airplanes. Planes in the painting. Yeah, we're making it kind of come in like this. Whew. Again, I'll probably put a little more on. I'll do a little more here at the end, and you can always take a blender brush and make this look like powder. You know, I can use the 1-inch to do that too. I need a little bit on that. That's a little too much shadow, right? If we imagine the sun is actually here, maybe, where my fist would be, because I can see it hitting the mountain, the shadow would actually probably go that way. But artistic liberty. We need a little dark around this tree. Maybe it's not shadow, it's just, you know, blue snow. It's really cold, and that's glacier snow. That's what we'll call it. You know, and knock that down. Sometimes you knock it down, it looks better even. This is one of those, even though it's a white canvas, I'll use a lot of white just to make my snow look good. You know, you don't really need to do all that. And I'm already out, so what did I do with my tube of paint? Oh, this one I could probably get a little bit out of. Let's see. Now that's thick paint. Golly. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Another little area there. We may do something over here. I don't know. 1, 2, 3, right? Different little planes. And we'll put a little path in here probably. Make it bright. Make that bright right there. Always throw a little dark under it if you need to make it look like stand out a little more. I see a little area right here you could play all day, really. You know, something like that. We will have a path. I do that. A simple, super simple path there. Powdery looking snow. My goodness. Let's highlight our tree. So I gotta get the paint out of this guy. Let's use one of these. Paper towel, just kind of squeeze it. It's actually one of those wet ones that I use. A tub of towels, probably putting something in here that'll be bad for the paint, won't ever dry. So use a dry paper towel, don't do like me. Make sure we're still recording. Yes, sir. Okay. So we got a mountain, we got a tree. You can put as many trees as you want. Remember, this is my painting. That's the number of trees I wanted. So I have liquid white. You could use linseed oil. I mean, heck, you could use paint thinner if you wanted to. I strongly advise you to not if you're not experienced with paint thinner. I'll use it a lot to thin down, but it's probably not good. So I need a bluish color. I want this to be, imagine this is a blue spruce maybe. And I've thinned it down with my liquid white, just putting it in there with my brush, I'm not using the knife. Went right to a pile of white that I had off to the side because the white is, don't know what I was going to say. I've already lost my train of thought, guys. Can I advise you not to get old? I'm not even old yet and I feel old. Just a little bit here and there. Yeah. And I don't want this super bright, but I do need it to stand out a little bit. And I got to be careful here because that color is very similar to that. It's standing out enough for me. You can always make yours, you could clean your brush in paint thinner and put white on here, it'd be fine. Maybe just a touch of blue in it. I always kind of take my time with these highlights. I want you to throw your clock away if you're painting. You're not on TV. The only reason Bob painted so fast is because he's on TV. He had to. Most of us aren't on TV. I mean, I'm on YouTube and I don't paint fast. Yeah, that's looking good. That's looking real good. So just kind of take that brush and I just kind of tap. Sometimes I'll go outside there. I'll show you another little trick with this here in just a second. Once I get this on here pretty good. Most of my highlights for the tree or the snow or the blue hue that I want on there are going to fall on that one side, right? But they're not. Look, most of it's over here. If we looked at it, it's probably right in here to there. But I let it go over occasionally. Quite a bit, actually. But I have to leave that dark in there. So just make sure you leave enough dark. And sometimes I'll sock some right in the middle of a tree like that. And that's another little heavy clump of evergreen. I want to call it foliage, needles. Sometimes we get a little too worried about how much highlights and we don't put enough in the tree. It just looks weird. You ever seen somebody highlight the tree and just look like a little line on the tree? I mean, I've done that, so don't do it that way. Let it kind of be a little thick in a few spots. Like right here. Look, just go back and put a little more. Maybe that stretches over. Maybe there's a little touch there. Maybe there's a little touch there. You can overdo this very quickly. So be a little careful, but if you look, it looks like it's very weighted down by snow. My snow is blue. Better than yellow snow. I think. Yeah, definitely better than yellow snow. Look how long I've spent highlighting this tree, but I want it to look good. Now at the bottom, you probably want a little bit less or let it get a little bit, I'm thinking about that. Maybe you want a little more. The heaviest parts of the tree would get most of the snow. The parts up here would hit the sun. If the sun came out, it might melt a little bit, but down here it's so fluffy, so many little, this is a spruce, so many little spruce needles sitting around having a good time that maybe we would have a good bit of snow clumped up in there. That's probably good. Well, that's a nice little tree, guys. If you like blue. Now see, what's my favorite color? Blue. I just bought a blue spruce. If you're in the Maryville area, there's a great little nursery here. He's gonna be like a Mr. Maple if not careful. All kinds of maples. He's got a lot of Japanese maples, but he has a lot of conifers. If you're in our area, it's called Loy's Landscaping. Down here in Maryville, and he's got such a selection of great evergreens. Got me a Chief Joseph that I know will die. If you don't know what Chief Joseph is, look it up. It's a beautiful yellow tree in the winter. Got a little weird spot right here. Almost went a little too thick right there. I might have to put a little dark back. That fixed it a little bit. It's almost a straight line up right there. Like a little. I could go maybe a little thicker here to fix that. Throw it off and then go a little thicker there to there. You get too much, stock some dark in it. I may do that at the end. I think that's fun. Let's see. What's next? What do I want? I don't have to. It's not going to look like the one I have on the computer, but let's just play a little bit before we do our birch tree. I've got a script liner here somewhere, and I grabbed one of my little Alexander ones. I love my long-haired script liner for 99% of the things. Sometimes I like this one. This is super thin, and it's one of the best ones I have. They don't make these anymore. This came out of one of those old sets. Very thin, not many hairs. So I'm just going to take a little blue color, maybe. A lighter blue than the dark blue that I use for the tree. You'll see it here. It's kind of, I don't know, like a Duke blue, if you know what I mean by that. Yeah, I'm going to have to go darker because it won't show up. We'll use the dark then. It's about contrast. A little tip for you, if ever trying to figure out if you got your colors and your light right on your painting, put your painting in a, on your phone or somewhere and put it into black and white. And you'll see, if you've got your contrast and stuff right. Just a few little sticks and twigs maybe. maybe if we wanted to, I've got a little blue paint here. You know, I could, a little grass kind of push up. See how I'm pushing up on that? Just let a little bit of this show. Then we'll put some little sticks and twigs coming out here. That's cool. I like this little, to do this little part. But yeah, just put it in a photo program and look at it in black and white. You can see if you've got your contrast right. You know, if it looks like you've got your lights and your darks looking good, you probably do, you know. And a little stick here near that tree. Maybe some little grass, I don't know. Don't do too much. You don't like it, you get rid of it, right? Yeah, just take my brush that way and just kind of smush in some color. I don't know. You can play around with it. You do it with a knife. I started to paint this tree with a knife. But then I thought better of it. I actually got a class this weekend where we'll paint evergreens with our knife. It's a very cool way to do it. And then you kind of just smooth out what you don't like. You know. I'll probably take my knife up in there and let a little snow creep up in there. And before I go too far, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to wipe my fan brush out on a paper towel. Just kind of clean it. Just no paint in it. But see, I got residue. You know, see that? I'm really rubbing hard and that's coming out. Somewhere in here there's a little path if we want it, if you want it. I just need a little dark put back in. Let it go that way, let it come back this way maybe. And then maybe it will meander out through here, and I'm just laying it out for now. Or if you use a little bit more dark paint, this is all you need. And then you just kind of clean up the edges. You know, it already looks like a little bit of a path there. All right, we'll play around at the end with some little details and things, but let's go ahead. Time to make our money. Let's do a birch tree. Now again, I didn't lay this one out. I was not paying attention. Normally I'd have this peak a little more this way and this peak, you know, maybe right, let's get my fingers out of the way, right there. There's my peak. So I'd have a good open space right here and put that nice birch tree. I could still do it, you know, but I don't know if it would look as good there. I'm gonna try it. You put it wherever, you could still sneak it right through there. The problem you'll have is getting your branches to stick because that's heavy snow on your mountain. And that's why when I did it in class and I did it, when I painted it the first time, I actually kept it over here and left enough room where I get a nice looking branches on there. But I'm going to put it right here and wherever you think it needs to go, you know. Here, I'm just going to start it here. I want it to be a little higher than that evergreen. And I'm just going to put some thick paint down. Yep, it's kind of like that. And I don't want them, I try to keep my birch trees from getting too fat all of a sudden. I'm just using that little roll of paint like we would if we were doing a mountain. Now the only rule that I ever, you know, make sure people hear on this is, you know, you've got to have it thicker at the base. Turn my knife this way. You can turn your knife either way that's more comfortable for you, okay? There's no wrong way of holding this knife for this part. You could put this on with the palette knife. I do think for birch trees, if you can get a little thicker snow on here, that's a little thick at the top somewhere. It's a little thick. I'm just going to kind of raise that up just a little bit, and I'll take my brush and make that a little bit nicer. Just a little bit thicker as it comes down through here. That's about right. That's about right. And then I always, because I got one evergreen, I need 3 trees on here. Birch trees grow in clumps a lot of times. You probably know that. So I'm just going to imagine that one's kind of growing right out of its little brother there, or big brother I mean. And we'll just kind of let him kind of meander up through here. Turn my knife. However, maybe put a little crook in this one. And I'm going to try to keep it a little smaller. A little bit smaller. I'm going to take it right through here. I'm glutton for punishment apparently. You can always sneak you a birch tree somewhere you don't have a lot of paint already. It's the best way to do it. I just can't do it, guys. I just can't do it. I'm going to have to take this one on out. I don't need it that tall, but I need it. There it goes. There it goes. You know, something like that. Something like that. Let's make it a little... Good thing about birches, though, you don't have to have a ton of branches on them to make them look okay. They don't have a lot of branches at the bottom. You know, we could probably start here with branches for a birch tree. Anybody's got birch trees in their yard, it doesn't have to be a white birch like this. River birches or any of those birches are the messiest trees that you could possibly plant in your yard. Anytime the wind blows, you're going to be out there picking up branches. And now I've got to find my tube of white. There it is. I was using dark paint. We'll put the little bark on here. Try to keep it kind of clean. I like it to be nice and clean. I clean my knife off. There's no glue on my knife. Get me a little roll of paint somewhere. If I get a little touch of blue in there, it won't kill me. And with the light, we know that the snow probably lays on this side. Now, one little tip that I would tell you is don't be so flat with your knife like I always do on the mountain. Raise my knife just a little bit. And I just start, that's why I try to keep my tree a little skinnier. I kind of just start on the outside of the tree. I'm sorry, the outside of the dark, and just kind of give it a little pull. A little pull. And the one thing you don't want to do is just keep going over it and over it and over it and over it. You just smear it with the dark. Kind of give it a little pull, little pull. You can get a little bit more if you need to, you know, and get back in there and give him a little pull. This is the thing that always amazed me about Bob. Bob could take one roll of paint. I got a little too much dark on my knife. Up here, when I get a skinnier one, I don't do the little pull because I don't think it looks good. Once I get about right here, I just kind of touch the dark on there. Okay. I don't know what I was saying when I interrupted myself. I don't know how to do that. Oh, maybe I did finish. I don't remember. You could make up a blue for this side. I usually just use the white. You know. And I'll show you what you can do if you get it a little too much. There. That's not a half bad birch tree, guys. I mean, for this style, there's there's probably 127 different ways to paint a birch tree. Okay, and the other ways may look better. This one can get a little messy, but again, just take your time. Slow yourself down. Remember those rules about not touching it too much in the same spot. You know, keep you a little smaller roll. That might help you be a little cleaner with it. We're not Bob, so we don't have, maybe that's what I was talking about when I interrupted myself. Bob would take one roll of paint and just kind of finish out the tree. Guess that's what, you know, painting 30,000 paintings can do for you. There. This is where my hand shakes and I get, you know, a birch tree that kind of gets a fungus on. It's just the, you ever seen the, what's that tea called? I started to say, no, I can't think of it. It's a fungus that grows on the birch tree and they make tea out of it. Chaga, that's it. You see it all over trees, wherever they have these white birches especially. Get so much of it. And this side, because this tree is so skinny, if you've ever struggled with these, just tap your paint on here. It still looks like a birch tree. You know, a nice little birch tree, guys. Now, that was the easy part. And another little tip, I think I showed this on the tree I did on the Smoky Mountain painting, but if you need to, a few spots, if you got it a little too bright or something, you could sneak back in here and just add some dark, you know, just, you can also, I would never just put it right in the middle. Look, I'm just going to add a few little dots of this stuff in here, and it makes it look like your the paper bark is peeling. Oh, another little useless, but maybe not if you needed it, fact about birch trees. You can put a piece of birch bark in water and pull it out of the water, it will still light on fire. I didn't believe it until I tried it. It's got an oil in it or something. So it's great if you got lost in the woods here and you had a lighter or you made you a fire, find you some birch bark. It'll spark right up. And there's your public service announcement for the day. You didn't need it until you knew you needed it. Alright, got that. Gotta find my little script liner. What did it do with it? It's so small, this one. There it is. I honestly would like to have one of mine. I don't see one laying here for this step. I like the little ones for little bitty sticks like that, because this one, I mean, look how tiny that one is. But this is one of the best ones I've found. Again, I don't think they make them exactly the same even from the Alexander company, because this one's probably from the 80s. I hide these. I don't put these out for people to use. I'm just going to use the same dark blue. Remember, we're only using Prussian blue and white, so we don't have to fret over what we're using. You could always throw black in here. Like I said to start with, you could have black in your blue, and I always think it looks a little colder even. The birch branches here just kind of wiggle and jiggle up. Yeah, we don't need a ton. We need some. We don't need a ton now. Let's see if I'm going to be able to. Oh yeah, look at that. I got it through there, guys. Sometimes I'll take that top and I'll extend it. If it doesn't look right, I'll put snow back on it. But you want your branches to be the thickest as you come down the tree. This is what I was saying. It's going to be a little harder here, but look, we're getting it. We're making it work. The only concern I have is it gets a little light. So if you watch me and then you paint this one, lay out your mountain a little bit better than Bram did. You know, I'm getting to the end when I start referring to myself in the third person. The end of what, I don't know, but just take a little bit of time here, put a few branches that look kind of cool in here. Yeah. Birch branches kind of come up like a V. I mean, like I'm doing, but you know, trees will look better than what I'm doing. Like the biggest issue I have here is just keeping that color really nice and dark. And I never really worry too much about putting, you know, going back with some snow or something on the branches. You can, if you wanted to. Easy way to do it. Wait till it dries. And then if you don't like it, when you don't like what you do, heck, it's super easy to kind of take back off at that point. Yeah. I gotta put a little one right here. Kind of run some of these out. Yeah, something like that. Whew, cold painting. Cold here today, so I don't know if that would maybe sit down and do this one. I actually taught at the college last night. This is one I did there, not last night, but it just reminded me of being there, reminded me of this one. I said that'd be a good one to do for YouTube's. Does YouTube have an S on it? Because I always had one. You got to sit down with the Googles and the YouTubes. Oh, that's a little long one. Watch out now. If you watch that Smoky Mountain one, I've been putting some long branches on here. I don't know why. I had to get rid of a couple. They got a little too long. Weird. Like I forgot how to do branches. I don't like them to get super long, especially at the top of the tree. Something like that. You need a few because it'll bring that mountain. Sorry, to push that mountain back. Make the tree look closer to you. And you can always take paint and go back over it if you have a steady hand. If you get you a maul stick or a curtain rod or something, so you can put it up here and rest your hand really close, you can really do tons of these branches. And these look better, honestly, the more branches they have at the top of the tree. We don't want to sock 70, 100 branches down here. That's probably enough. One more maybe. I don't want them to end at the same exact spot. So this little guy is going to have one that a little bit bigger. Kind of reaching out there like that. Shows up nice. And then maybe just take one right here. Bigger one, just kind of run through there. I don't know which one is the bigger tree, so you know, just kind of play around with it. There. Okay, that's probably too many. Again, I don't put any white on them at this stage. Kind of let them be. If you heard me before when I was talking about doing these birch trees, birches grow in clumps, so they will put out little runners like this out of the roots. Put you a couple in here. You know, if you don't like them, you can always knock them back in the snow. Where's our snow brush? There it is. Actually, let's use the other brush real quick. We want this to be a little bit reflected, so reflection would run this way, honestly. You can make a little hill for your tree like that. Just run a little bit of that out. It wouldn't come straight back because the sun is here. And maybe the sun's about right there. It could push it that way, but I'm going to imagine the sun's a little more over here and my shadow is going to go that way. You get to decide which way yours goes. I mean, I could pull a little bit down here, smooth it out. It may look like a shadow. I think it looks better if you do that. Anyway, a little white now. A little white without killing all of our shadow, but we want a little bit more white up in there. Grab a little bit here. Look at that, knock that path down a little bit. Probably want to do a little bit of this over here too. I kind of like it. No paint on my brush, didn't add anything. You know, just some fuzzies around the tree. Might knock it in a little bit. However much, and if you wanted to, you could take this same brush, maybe a little liquid white on it, and just kind of come in here and just push in some white stuff like that. Maybe a little bit more. I didn't get much liquid white. The liquid white helps it stick, is why I use that. Get on the corner, and just kind of, something like that. And then I'll go in here. Let's grab my handy dandy here. I'll get rid of what I don't like, or smooth it out. I kind of like just that look, and then I might put a little grass in there too. And I know I'm going to do this. I can see it. Why not do it? Just kind of clean that up a little bit. There. You don't have to do all those little things, guys. It's just me sitting here messing around, honestly. I've already done my work for the day, so why not just do a few little play around on my painting. If you wanted to, you could have little sticks and things in there. I don't know that I like that one. Some kind of little growth out of the snow. Get rid of that one. The bottom. I hate the bottom of it. Hate's a strong word, but probably accurate there. Okay, so we got our path. Easy path. If you don't want a path, don't put it. You could leave it exactly like I have it. You could make it a little bit darker, or you could take a little white. I always start with the little edge, that way I don't get my path too wide to start with. I'm just going to make a little chunkier snow. Just a few indications. Can you see that? Not real. Oh, I got liquid white. I didn't mean to. Hold on. I'm like, that's really loose. You want white. Titanium white, not liquid white. There. I want it to just kind of lay right in there. Once I get past this, though, I'm going to... That doesn't look right with that liquid white. We're going to leave it though. I'm going to go back to the long edge now and just kind of moving the knife. I don't put it down and move it. I just kind of move the paint with the knife. I always think this looks pretty good, like a little path. Something like that. Yeah, just kind of wherever it goes. Make sure your path goes straight across the canvas. That's the only thing you're watching for. And then when you get that done, I'd recommend this. You know, the snow's going to go right up to your path. Don't let it get too light. I'm almost about too light there. Put a little path in there, maybe. Again, your mileage is going to vary for these things. What you like is what you put. Okay. Now here's something I'm going to get onto myself for. I didn't bring this down. I would probably like that to be about right there. I'm not going to change it now. They're right next to each other. So watch that. That's really the only thing I see. Well, I see several things I don't like. That's just me being particular. This is overkill. Everybody hear that? Just a couple more little stick trees out in here. Because I like them. If I don't like it here, I can put it back in the snow. If you want to, you can build you a snowman. You know, something like that that'll... Some kind of old bush that's been knocked down. It's had a hard life. We don't know. I don't know what it's like to live out here. I kind of make it look like that's in the snow. You know. And do we like it? No, we don't. Watch. Look at this. Look how easy you can change this stuff. I don't need it. Takes away from it. The only thing I might do, I kind of like to see what this would look like. Oh, I put paint on there. Try this one. Let's go grab my fan brush. I've only got one back here. But it's right in here, maybe a little bit darker. Let a little bit more creep out. That way it doesn't get so flat. Maybe these are just little grass. Very little paint. Just kind of tap, 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 tap just a little bit out. I'll show you what I'll do. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. And the same thing here. I think that's a little too light. I'm just tapping. Tapping a little grass in here. Maybe it creeps down through here. This is a hill, so it's, you know, you could push it up too like this. I've already done a little bit of that anyway, but I like this look. I wanted something else in here. I wanted something else. Yeah. I'm gonna overdo it, guys, so be careful. I know I'm close. I really like how that looks over here, especially. Imagine these trees are growing there, and tell you what I'm gonna do. I already know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna fill that in with dark. Right about like that. Okay. And super easy. Little bit of liquid white, a little touch of white. May have a little touch of hint of blue in it. I can any way you want to turn your brush now, it works. Maybe there's a little snowy bush right there. I need to just touch more liquid white. Make it stick easier. Let's just put a little bush right here around those trees. Oh yeah, see that? Not being very, very detailed with this. It's just kind of there. I like trying to be messy sometimes. Sometimes I paint too perfect, not really. I try to paint too perfect. Just kind of let these sit here. Something like that. And then over here, maybe you turn your brush more flat, more horizontal, and you just kind of, I don't know. And again, it may not be for you. Just a little snowy, frosty, something on our little grass that's run under our tree. Let it get less and less, and let it mix a little bit back in here probably. You know, that may be too much, but it'll work. You know, I want it the brightest on the edges. Where I've got that. Yeah, I love that because it changes. It gets a little, for me, I like a little bit of harshness in a painting when I get to this point. And when I get to the foreground, I don't want it to be so smoothed out like I've got it here. This is just a bunch of little thick grass that the snow is not completely 100% covered yet. Or, it's melted off, or an animal's been, moose has been trying to get to that grass right there. Poor guy's hungry. So, just kind of clumps of something. And then if you get it too clumpy, like you're worried about how that looks, you can take put a little more over here. I really like that look. Like I said, it's kind of messy. There. You could take the little, if you got a blender, and just a couple spots, just kind of grab some of the little bit of the dark that you see that's a little fuzzy, and just kind of put that back in there. I might go over my path just a little bit. Again, I don't want that to be much of a path. Just maybe an indication of one. Yeah, and right in there maybe. Watch this. You just use the dark to create little pockets of things happening. Now, I'm overdoing it, right? You can see that. I like it. We're done. 2 things. My signature, and if you wanted to come in here and just kind of scratch a few little, well, heck, you could do this even. I hate this, I'll take them out. Little sticks or something, but they're white that kind of live behind that tree. I don't know. Don't care for that. Experimentation. Mistakes. That's how you learn. I never learn to stop when I'm ahead. I like that one. Leave that one. That's just something different. Oh, one thing I was going to show you. I said I was done. This is for the advanced folks in the room. Not really. It's just you got to be careful. If you wanted to, a little touch of liquid white. This is almost 90% liquid white. And you can make that tree. And don't overdo this, Bram. I have to tell myself that. You can make that tree have a little bit of shiny white on it. It will, I don't know if you can see that, it'll make it look colder even. It also makes it stick out a little bit. It's really cool. This is one of those things when I said, for the more experienced in the room, it's kind of a joke, but it's not, because I could see you really going too far with this. Liquid white is a loose, wet paint. So you've got to be careful with this. You can also clean this brush and make it a little easier. And you just put just a hair, just kind of sitting a little bit on top of that. What we've already done, so I'm using no pressure. I don't know if you can see that. You use pressure, it kind of runs it, because it smushes in there. See, like right there. So I kind of go back and I just move it around where I want, just a little hint of something happening. Maybe not much down there. Probably want just a touch at the top. Again, I hope you close the video if you're not comfortable doing this, because this can get messy. Makes your tree really, it's hard to use like white, like titanium white here, because it's going to mix with everything under there. And don't do this if it doesn't look good to you. It may look terrible. It's probably in my head that it looks good. Something like that. That's probably two more hits of it. Like I said, it will work better if you clean your filbert. Probably be the thickest at the top, so yeah, something like that. There, that looks colder now. See, one more thing. I keep saying I'm done, and I keep going, right? I may have to touch this back up even. Get a little black, or blue, not black. I want my trunk on this one to be just a slightly more defined top. Now, you can't do that without going back to your brush now. Clean that stuff out that I just put on there. Doesn't need to be clean even. I didn't like the way that trunk was looking. I think I mentioned before, dealing with the filbert, you get kind of a bigger trunk. Now it's a little more pointy. Signature. Let's stop. If I want to play, I can do it off video. I keep losing the little script liner. There it is. Foot rubbing against the wall. Yeah, we'll just use the dark. Dark will look good here. Right here's a good spot. That's a funny bee. I got a fat bottom bee. Anybody ever wants one of these paintings, I always put them on my website, always in the description. So you can always find them on the website. I try not to charge too much for them. But we're done. Let's stand up. Grab my glasses again. I can't paint with my glasses anymore, guys. I'm that old. I asked the ophthalmologist, I said, do I need bifocals? She said, no, just take them off if it doesn't bother you. So that's what I do. Here we go. Boy, that is a cold painting. Cold painting. There's our straight on. Man, that's cold. That is a cold scene, guys. I love the birch trees. I love birch trees. Crank it out. Do this one. It's fun. Sorry it took me a little longer. I figured I'd do this one like 45 minutes, but I run my mouse so much. If somebody was here, you could tell me to shut up. But there you go. Another video done. We'll start cranking them out. Make sure you like the video. It helps. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not. If you stuck around this long, or maybe you scrolled all the way to the end to see what it looks like, give us a hit the subscribe button there. I was going to say give us a subscription. That's fine too if that works. I don't know. But yeah, just thanks for watching, guys. Make this a cold painting. Everybody, see you soon. Everybody stay well.